Years ago, I wrote a letter to my guide. Basically, I was asking him about questions that had to do with relationship and love. And in this case, it was regarding challenges I was having with my spouse, our relationship, etc. And the answer that I got back from him was that love is not an exchange. And this is something that was very meaningful to me because it really pointed out to me that love is more in the giving. And I was experiencing this at the time in my job in teaching because I had years of teaching many students. And when everything felt best, when it worked in a way where everyone was gaining something from it, was when I was really giving to them and felt like they were inspired and motivated and left my office alive and as if maybe their life that day was a little bit better. So it has informed a lot of my thinking about love through the years, about the unbounded nature of love, about how love is not just about spousal relationship or love for your child, but how it has to do with your job, it has to do with walking through the woods, it has to do with just about every single thing we experience in life, and that it's an energy that runs through everything. So this is still, of course, an ongoing exploration, and but that statement from him was really meaningful to me, and it got a lot going.
So if the mind is stilled, let's say we meditate and it gets really still, well then what comes out? It's like, what is it that we're then reaching in to get, And you'd have to say that whatever comes out is the soul. It's like whatever that is, and it's some infinite source. And so that's where inspiration comes from. That's why when you meditate, it's not uncommon that a solution to something comes out.
Right.
When you're finishing, all of a sudden a thought comes out and says, wow, that's what I needed. I just needed that piece of information. And there it is, And they say that a lot of the great scientists, would agree with us and say, yes, that was an inspiration from above. I didn't, or from some other place, I didn't get it by figuring it out. So if we can access that inner self, then we have access to a lot of information. And that's what the term Akashic record applies to. It's the idea that there is a record of everything that we've ever experienced, and it is held in a field, and that field is accessible. So what we actually do is we access a piece of it, and that's where memory comes from, because it's not all stored up in the brain.
Wow, I didn't realize that's what they meant by Akashic records.
Well, it is that record of everything, and some people can read it very easily. They can go in deeply and read it. They can read it for other people too, and tell you what's happened, what's coming, whatever. Because it's infinite, right? It can't actually have a beginning and end, really.
So to me, what you're saying, if that exists already, then it makes total sense that information is actually also available.
It's absolutely available.
It's just that you have to. But there's some sort of frequency or vibrational.
Yeah, I would say it exists at a certain frequency. You can match that frequency. You can pull it.
And that's why actually meditation is such a useful tool, because it's just a tool, like a muscle, kind of get it stronger. Through meditation, that's part of what happens is you experiment and you learn to feel the difference in the vibration and frequency of yourself at different levels, levels of emotion, what it's like when you're feeling resentful or frustrated or whatever. It's really hard to expand your awareness.
Right.
Although, one of the first places it expands to, I think, is learning that when you sit by yourself, that's one kind of meditation experience. When you sit with others, that's a whole other thing. Especially if they've been sitting for long, if they've been sitting for decades. Sitting by myself is one thing, and sitting with a group is another. And in terms of density, in terms of experience, in terms of it seems essential to do the individual piece of it, just so that when you show up at the moment of opportunity in the larger sitting or some larger event where there will be sitting, that you've done your homework by yourself, such that if something were to happen there, you can, that train might not go flying past you.
We could talk about, like what's happening behind the scenes that makes that all possible.
Yeah.
And part of it is that, as we said earlier, like when a person meditates for a long time in a good practice, well, then more and more of that divine self expresses itself. It becomes who they are. So they keep becoming more, and actually it's a vibrational state. So they keep becoming more finely attuned vibrationally.
To being themselves.
Yes, to being themselves, exactly. But now suppose that person is put in a room with somebody else, that state is there. So that state will automatically flow to other people.
Here's the question, when you use the word divine, are you really referring to just a higher vibrational state?
Yes.
Okay.
I am. Actually, divinity, God, Allah, all those words are, in my mind at least, only representing or a representation of a vibrational state. And I think it's better almost to say source energy.
Yes.
Because source energy, I think, is very, 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 very subtle. And it comes from the source. And that is something that we can tune into if we let go of all of the assumptions we have about who we are and we can get to a calm enough state. Then we can link up to that because we are linked to it.
Right.
So you can start to, experience that source energy. And all I was saying a minute ago was just that as a person experiences more and more of that source energy, becomes more and more of that source energy, well then it's knowable by other people. It's experiential.
Yeah.
But the other side of it is this idea, because we have all had the chance to experience a meditation that includes transmission of source energy, right? Well, that's a big difference. Now all of a sudden you have extra, this extra help. So I meditate, I sit down, I try to calm my mind down and all that, and it does what it wants, for the most part. We all practice it, but it's an ongoing thing. But then with source energy is introduced, it makes it easier. And all of a
Why
sudden,
does it make it easier?
well, because it's coming from the source, and so
No, but I think there's a natural kind of attraction to pull yourself up. Not pull yourself, but it's like a magnet,
Yeah.
It sort of pulls my vibration a little closer to that source energy.
Yes.
And so you have the effect of actually having that effect, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Feeling like that movement is taking place without my really
Without your
doing it myself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a really important distinction because, source energy is poured in. There is source energy here, but so it's awakened. It starts to waken up because it feels this stuff coming in and it knows what it is. And so it starts awakening to it. But we also talked about earlier the fact that the soul or source inside us has got a cocoon around it. So we got to clean away that stuff, And that source energy can also be used to remove those layers.
Right. So you're talking about like layers of junk or layers of saran wrap
and
or
strong attachment.
layers of coverings
Things
that are
we've
like
attached ourselves to
yeah.
so strongly that we would never want
Right.
to let go of it and believe that.
Yeah.
Like
something else.
attitudes, opinions, and
Yeah,
beliefs,
everything.
and
Right. It has to be this way. It has to be that way.
yeah, the stuff that keeps us pretty
Yeah.
well tethered.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So this helps. This practice idea with this energy helps, and in a group it helps even more because the group is all like a vacuum sucking in something, and that source energy goes in. So
That
all of
sounds a
sudden
little
it's
like
exponential. No, I know.
Yeah.
I hear you. It is kind of weird, but it
does sound
actually
weird.
works.
it does sound weird, but it is
Yeah.
it's one thing to talk about it and put it into words. It's another thing just to sit and
Yeah, and to
Yeah,
experience it.
yeah.
It's all about the
Experience it and
experience.
feel-
I totally agree.
Yeah.
No, it's so crazy to get to a point in. I mean, this business of to knowing of the source and to knowing what enters. This has been part and parcel of my life since I was probably 27, 28, 29 years old. For anybody who starts out on this path and has the good fortune to meet this phenomenon to which we are connected all the time anyway, but who decides also that this is really worth investigating as opposed to another PhD or something else. That is a pivotal moment in one's life, both because of the subsequent choices that one can be making, but also because that experience of itself, repeated cumulatively, is so transformative.
So you almost have to speak from your own experience. It's the only way, that you can really share what has happened. What has happened? Like what? Okay, so why is it I'm here or here and not someplace else?
Yeah.
And it's only because I went through certain experiences, and we all have. Everybody goes through it. And for myself, as an example, I don't even we talked about something happens sometimes, and it's a difficult thing, and that then makes you start to think about, is there more to life than just this? Like when my mother had her brain tumor.
Yeah.
And then from that, somehow, and it didn't hurt that I also experimented with some mushrooms and things that also made me push my consciousness out a ways, so that then all of a sudden I started to think about yoga, meditation and stuff, and seeing like how does that fit with these other things, And so then I found this practice called integral yoga. There was a guy named Swami Satchidananda who was the head of it, and it integrated meditation and hatha yoga in selfless service. And those three things became the integration. That's what he was talking about. What I did was I started to do hatha yoga. I started that because I didn't really know much about the other stuff, so I started to teach myself hatha yoga. So then after a while, I met this teacher, Swami Satchidananda. I went to a retreat, 10-day retreat, in silence. And what they told us was that if you wanted to get a mantra from him, because everybody has this unique sound inside, and that if you are given the correct mantra, it will help to bring that sound out. So I said, okay, let's get a mantra. So I went through this experience, and what happened was, I was in this room, this small room, and this teacher was here, and there was a few of us, so we had our eyes closed. The teacher was in front, and the next thing I knew, the teacher was touching the top of my head with his thumb. So I'm saying the mantra that he'd given me. He'd walked around and back and was touching. And when he did, I felt this strong pull of energy go up my spine. So it made me think like, well, something's happening here. And so, I continued doing that for a while. And after a year, that's when I met Ramchandra. First, I went to a small group meditation where he transmitted. So now there's another element. All of a sudden now he's saying, look, I can just transmit to you guys.
Transmit, you're talking source energy.
Yeah, he said, I can transmit source energy to you, and you'll feel it eventually.
But that wasn't previously part of the hatha yoga.
No. This is a whole new dimension, right? Meeting a new teacher. The other teacher, So I went to him, and it was a small group, and he transmitted to this small group. And afterwards, somebody asked me if I felt anything, and I said, well, I think I felt a little some kind of tingling in my heart. That's all. I wasn't sure. And they said, well, come to the house where he's staying. And he was staying in Stonington, Connecticut, and I was in Western Rhode Island, which is like 5 miles away or something. So for 2 or 3 nights, I went there, and he would transmit. And, I thought, well, seems like something might be happening, but I'm not exactly sure what. And he asked me if I wanted to go to India. Well, I had been thinking about going to India at that time. So when he said, do you want to go to India? It seemed like, of course I want to go. And he said, well, you should come in February of 1973. So for the next 9 months or so, because I met him in May, before I went there in February, I tried the meditation. There was a trainer prepared in Stonington, Connecticut that could help me, because that person was prepared to transmit. And I would go there for sittings, what we called sittings, to get receive transmission. And
which was source energy.
Source energy, yeah. Then I went in to the centenary celebration, and that was a big thing, because now, Ramchandra was there, and he was transmitting to this group, this source energy, and the group was about 800, I think. They were from all over the world, so I got to meet people from different parts of the world that were trying this.
Wow, but there were already 800 at that point.
Yeah, somewhere around there, 600 to
70s.
800, yeah,
Yeah.
worldwide. The celebration went on for 3 days, lots of good meditation and energy. Oh, and at one point, Ramchandra was sitting in front. He was actually, I think he was just reading his message for the group of what he was, for the centenary celebration. And then he was sitting in a chair like this, and he just sat down on the floor. And so afterwards I said to people, well, why did he sit on the floor then? And he said, well, because his master came. Balaji was there. And so he sat down and
He
to
vacated his
acknowledge
seat.
him. Yeah, to acknowledge his presence. I missed something, but it was, you know,
Yeah,
It's
there-
a
but-
dimensional thing.
yeah, it was a dimensional thing which I missed. And a density thing.
Yeah.
But it was a good start. And then after that, I said to him, can I come up and visit you? And he said, absolutely, of course. And I stayed at his house because his house was open to people who wanted to stay
Yeah.
there at the time.
Kind of had a courtyard thing.
Yeah, had a little courtyard there in the middle. And I stayed there for almost 2.5 months.
Really?
Yeah.
Gee,
And,
wow, you had a decent period of time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a very decent period of time. to stay
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know, and it changed me a lot. I felt, you know, a lot of things happening during the meditations that occurred during that time, because every day he would transmit to the people there. When I was there, I began to realize that there was something special about the practice itself and about the transmission that I was starting to feel, the transmission of the source energy coming from him. And so I decided that I would, you know, like more than give it a try. It seemed to me like it was something I should really seriously try to figure out how it works and how could I get the most out of it. And so that's when I learned more about the practice itself, the morning meditation that we talk about, and the cleanings that we talk about doing on our own, and then also getting help from trainers who can transmit the energy for, even though the guide isn't there. And then eventually, after a while, I met Parthasarthi, who became his spiritual representative. And it was from that experience, because I spent over 20 some years with him, that I really began to understand more about who I am and what's possible. You start to realize that you are receiving something, you know, that there is a real source energy coming into you. And the more you realize that it's changing you and it's helping you to become more of who you ought to be, so to speak, as
Yeah.
you would say, that's when you start to feel gratitude. There's a natural gratitude that comes from realizing what you're receiving.
Yeah.
And that linkage is extremely important, because it is from gratitude that love develops. And it is the love that actually makes everything happen. Because when the love is there, it's sort of like the source is love too, and it can't help but come back to you. It's like it goes in a circle, sort of.
The vibration of love, if you talk about things as vibration, has got to be the same or very close, you know, in subtlety to what you call source
Yes.
energy.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah,
that
no, I
they are
think it's-
either mirrors or the same or
Yeah, but that's why they say like the drop in the ocean. You know, I think that is the ocean of love, and we have this drop of love in us, and that can actually merge into it, in the sense that you let go of enough stuff so that it just
Yeah.
bubbles up, because it's already there. It doesn't have to
Yeah,
come from
yeah,
any
yeah,
place. It's already
yeah.
here.
The experiences I've had that have been real feelings of love, what seems to me to be real feelings of love, they're not bounded. And a feeling of gratitude seems to come with it. It seems to be together, you know, where I can access a feeling of being grateful for being alive. And one of the things that I've tried to start doing is to just start telling my body that I'm grateful for it. So it's kind of an experiment, but for me, the times where I've actually felt what it seems like true gratitude is when I'm in nature. You know, when something opens up in me and thought is not defining everything, and I'm just walking through the woods or on a mountain or whatever, wherever
You
that.
can walk through mountains.
No, I don't walk through mountains.
I was wondering that too.
on a mountain trail, but you know, wherever it is, but in a natural place where things just open, you know, and then I've had experiences of what feels like real gratitude to me. You know, when I've become aware of what I'm actually a part of, what being on this earth, the gift that it is. I think that is probably the thing that meditation has helped me with, is just knowing that if I don't do something to regulate my thoughts, I'm going to be just that, and I will be eaten by it. I will be like devoured by my thoughts.
That's what they do.
Yeah, and even in that time when I'm not meditating, but I'm doing whatever it is, and my thoughts are going crazy about Craig. Craig. if I, but you know, sometimes I just say, I need another perspective. I know this is not the reality. I need, wherever it's going to come from right now, I'm ready. Another perspective would be really appreciated. And
or an unperspective. I mean, it's
yeah,
no,
yeah,
but it's
exactly.
so
But just
beautiful
something that
about Michael
opens
Singer's
that
thing,
and doesn't leave you in. You just want it to open. That's all. You just want it to, like, you want to be free of it.
So what does it mean to love thyself? Because doesn't everybody say nowadays that you should love yourself and you can't really do anything else until you love yourself? So what does it mean?
It's a really good question. Like when you ask that, or if somebody asks the question about joy too, like where does that, you know, what is your joy? I find myself thinking, what do I do for joy?
Everybody should play guitar.
And
music is a form of joy.
Yeah.
A joyful expression.
The only thing that I can say about it is that I can't be in thought and love myself.
If you say to love yourself and you're thinking about the self that is, you know, attached to all of these feelings and is selfish,
Good luck
and doesn't
with that.
like this person and likes that person, you know, I mean, it's like, why would I love that? And
Right, exactly.
It's illogical.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so you have to figure, well, what we really mean is that there is something inside us that is worth loving.
Right.
You know, or maybe it is love
Right.
itself. And so
And
if
you have
that's
to
the
feel
case,
it. You have to feel
it,
it.
experience it, express
You
it.
can't feel it through thoughts.
No, you can't. You have to feel it. That's right.
Betsy.
I agree.
And with that, viewers,
Yes.